Welcome back to my life in a turtleneck. No, seriously, have you seen my other videos? I don't know why I keep wearing the same turtlenecks, but I guess it just is the season. In this video, I'm going to share some of my views on what it's like to being a 30-something-year-old, to remind you of why I think this is the best time to be alive right now, and to maybe ease the pain of transitioning into your 30s should you be at a stage where you're, I don't know, 28, 29, or even younger, to see that it's probably not going to be the end of your world. So make sure you watch until the end to find out if I like being in my 30s or not. I'm not very good at surprises or holding tension, so I'm just gonna start telling you that I think honestly this is the best decade that I'm in so far. And I had a lot of daunting thoughts about turning 30 because, you know, it's this whole thing of, you know, your 20s being this youthful period where everything's possible and everybody loves you and you look your best, and I don't know, the whole world is catered to you on a silver plate, and then the moment you turn 30, like snap, everything's being taken away from you and you wake up, your face has dropped to the floor and nobody's looking at you anymore and everybody just thinks that you're a complete loser because, also, let me break it to you, you probably aren't a millionaire by now or close to it, so you feel like a total failure anyway. I remember having the same thought. So for example, if my 18, 19, 20-year-old me had seen beforehand what I would be like as a 30-year-old, I would have probably not really approved, because maybe you've seen my other videos where I talk being a super stuck 20-something-year-old. So had somebody when I was 20 told me that at 30 you're still gonna be a student, I think I probably would have given myself up for adoption at this point. But thank God we're evolving as human beings, and so even I did. But I also remember I was so nostalgic at my 26th birthday, because I thought, okay, now, you know, I'm closer to 30 than I am to 20. And yeah, I think it also tied into me not really being happy with where I was at this stage. So yeah, just the idea of getting older just seemed very frightening and intimidating. For me, the worst period really was from 26 to 30 somehow, because that's where my life changed so much. Basically, almost every aspect of my life changed, except for maybe my favorite color and my favorite dish. But apart from that, everything just completely turned. My job, my living situation, my relationship, everything. Was there anything more to it? No, I think that was it. But it was basically everything at that point. At the end of my 20s, I decided to go back to university in order to become a dentist. And even though that had been my long-term dream to actually be a dentist and work as a dentist, having to go through these 5 painful years of being a student again and sort of leaving the timeline everybody else was on to sort of reverse back to being in my early 20s somehow. I don't know if that makes sense how I explain it, but maybe you get the idea. So that was difficult. So I felt not only am I approaching 30, but I'm also not living like a stereotypical 20-something-year-old at this point anymore, when everybody else is getting married, getting a house, getting 2 more pets, anything like that. But then somehow when I turned 30, I felt that I could start afresh, and if, you know, a page had turned and that was sort of a new, unwritten, untouched era that I could sort of jump into, and that for some reason made me feel really good, because I felt like something in my mindset about it has also changed, where I felt that this is a brand new start and this is another decade of my life that I could really become the person I sort of have always wanted to become. And I was also very much on track of that, because when I turned 30, I merely had 2 more years of dentistry school left. So I knew that in 2 years' time, I'm going to be professionally what I had always wanted to be. And that gave me a lot of confidence. There's something else about turning 30 where you start feeling more confident in general. And this is also why I have to say this is the best decade I have been in thus far, because it is true what people say, the older you get, the less you care about what other people say. And I have to say that my my 20s were heavily influenced by what other people had to say or think about me, my development, the way I lived. And it was very much, you know, whenever you plunged into something new, it was oftentimes time to, I want to do this, but what are other people going to say about this? And I need to ask 10 of my friends so I can make a pro and contra list to then actually decide if I wanted to do something or not. And I feel the older you get, the less you care about what other people think about what you should do or not do, and that in turn really liberates you to actually start doing what it is that you want to do. And by allowing yourself to do just that, you also, I feel that you become happier with how you live in general, because you start to live more on your own terms. Does that make sense so far? I hope this makes sense. Also, by turning 30, you've probably seen and been through so much that you've seen all kinds of life situations, and you've encountered all kinds of problems and all kinds of difficult moments, where by piling enough experience on that, you have probably also internalized by now that even though some situations really suck and there are moments where your heart is being ripped out, you have survived and you're still alive and you're still breathing, and those situations probably still suck, but you probably also know that you have gotten something out of that and that you have learned something. And I hope that these situations make you appreciate and love yourself more, to know that if anything fails in life, you have still your own back to go forward with. And I hope it also shows you that at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if people like you or not, because you will have probably by now found your own tribe of like-minded people that prove you that you are worthy of friendship, and that there's always going to be a person, hopefully, in your life that supports you. And even if you don't, you've lived along on this planet to know that you're the person you need most in your life at the end of the day. Another thing I find important to point out ties in with what I said earlier about your face starting to melt and dropping to the floor. Looking back at the photos from my early 20s, I never want to be that person again somehow. Do you see what I mean? Like, I mean, of course, when you're in your 20s and you look back at photos of yourself when you were 12, you obviously don't want to be that person again. At least I don't. The same applies now when I look back on photos that were taken during my 20s. I'm just looking at myself and I'm thinking, I don't want to look like this anymore. I just don't want to be that person anymore. And I know there probably comes a time when all of this is going to reverse, and maybe, you know, when I'm hopefully 70 something, I look back on photos of myself now in my 30s where I'm like, oh, I wish to look like that person again. I hope not. I hope that maybe by then society has changed enough that aging is not a big taboo anymore. Let's see, I'm not getting into that right now. But now, at least when it comes to my 20s, I just don't want to look like that person anymore. I don't want to look like a puppy dog, you know? I mean, I don't know what you think when you see my face. I feel so far quite happy and lucky with how I'm aging. Of course, I see changes, and of course, there are things where sometimes I'm wondering if I should feel insecure about something or not. But as long as patients at work ask me if I'm a student, I think I think I'm good. Maybe you're watching this and you're thinking, oh my God, what is this old hag talking about? But I'll let that be your problem for now. Because I'm 30 something, I don't care what other people are saying anymore. And now, if you think that this is just my view on this whole topic, I'm just gonna randomly draw in some facts from my friend circle. But what I've observed so far is that, you know, when you're 28, 29, there's the tipping point where you're like, oh my God, I'm approaching 30 and I'm gonna hate that and I feel so old and what is life going to be like? And then the moment also my friends have turned 30, everybody is of the opinion that life just gets somehow instantly better. And yeah, this is something that my friends and I really have encountered all together, that yeah, life is just better in your 30s. I also think that life will get even better in your 40s. So maybe if you're over 40, I think most of my viewers are between the ages of, I think I'm up until 34, and there's a cut. So if you're the first person over 34 to watch this channel, or even over 40, let me know if that's true, because I want to live life on the opinion that life gets better with every year and every decade maybe. Maybe that's super naive, I don't know, but I find this way of thinking much more appealing than thinking everything is just going to be downhill from now. And so far, as you might have guessed from this video, I feel that I'm right to say that. I want to sum it up saying that I'm super happy with being in my 30s. I do not look back being a 20-something-year-old. I'm sort of appreciative of the person I was back then, but I don't need to be that person again. And I feel that the parts that were good about me in my 20s have stuck with me and come with me to my 30s, and the things that were not that beneficial for me, also in terms of friendships and relationships, they can stay in that other era, and what is now in that new decade is just so much better. So if you're in the beginning of your 20s, no, life does not end when you're 30, that's it, voila. But you know, if you're about to turn 30, the key message is your face is not gonna melt, okay? Not on the day of your birthday. And also not the day afterwards. Maybe after a week. I just coughed, so maybe you see the tears in my eyes. I'm not trying to get emotional for viewers' sake. Long story short, worry not. You have so much to look forward to. Life is just going to get better. And let me know in the comments how you feel about turning 30 or being 30, if you agree with me or not. And if you like this video, maybe you want to see more about my journey or something more dentistry related, or some of the mistakes I wish I hadn't made during my 20s. That's it for now. Bye!